All right, you all. It's season 2 of the Player Development Pod. Want to highlight those who are doing the work, and today I am honored to have Ashley Goodman, a KU Rock Chalk Jayhawk, with us today. Ashley, we're going to talk about, I've got to know you over the past 3 years, and talk about your transition into player development, from different areas. You got a black background in athletics, and excited to learn more about you. Can you tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, so thank you first off for having me. This is great. I always love catching up with you and talking shop. So, background is strength and conditioning. Actually, I had a very progressive volleyball coach when I was younger who got me and a few others into the weight room at a very early age, before even high school started. And I fell in love with it. So at 14, I already knew I was going the coaching route, and that was really, something that it was a passion of mine. However, I did not have, family members or a dad who was in the business, so it was really something that I had to just learn on my own, good, bad, and ugly, like I say. And so did that for 12 years. And by the time, 2018 rolled around, I was having some difficulty seeing whether or not I was going to remain in the weight room or transition, and what that would look like. And so I took some time and talked to a few people in this space, in player engagement, player development space. And pretty much I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it for a few different reasons. It was still the element of coaching, just in a different realm for me. But I knew that it was also the next step of not only getting, and worrying about getting our players stronger and ready for season, but ready for life, and to maximize their opportunity while they were either in college or a professional athlete. So I still view myself as a coach, whether or not I'm in the weight room or not. I'm still coaching.
Awesome. So if you can kind of talk about, your transition from, the NFL, you have NFL experience. We'll talk about your transition from NFL to college football, and then we'll talk about how those responsibilities are similar and different.
Yeah, I would say that not a whole lot of people have, like I say, one foot in college and one foot in the pros. And I think especially for this area, for this space, I think it helps to have knowledge in both realms, to see, how we can help maneuver and transition athletes in a more efficient manner, and make sure that before they even get to the NFL, which is very challenging, to not only get there but remain there, is just making sure that they understand the business side of things. And so I say that I would say that I have more time on the pro side with players, just because we're not restricted with the hours of college. And academics take a big chunk out of our time too.
Oh yeah.
I'm all for academics, but when it's I see myself as I get older, a little bit more just wanting to worry about the business and the sport itself. But I think, like I said, I think there's value to having one foot in both, and to make sure that we're helping transition guys from high school to college to pro, and then life after.
Gotcha. And for those who, there's some who may, see player engagement, as the title's called, in college, and see player development, there's different titles at the college. Player engagement is called at the NFL level, and player engagement player development, as it's called on the college level. Tongue twister right there. Can you kind of talk about the things that have been similar that you did at the NFL that you're doing now in college, and things that are a little different? You talked a little bit about academics, but other things also.
Yeah, I'm when we get to the professional realm, a lot of the components we have mandated topics, which I'm trying to push. I know you and I have had this discussion on just being on the same page. We're all somewhat similar and trying to help develop athletes, but what does that mean? What does that look like? What does the programming look like?
Right.
And so within the NFL, in the professional sense is one of the most progressive sport when it comes to developing their players. Not to say that they don't have more work to
Right.
do in the space, but throughout the entire leagues, they are the most progressive within this space. So, within the mandated programming that the NFL's, there's some mandated programs for rookies, and then for vets for the 2 and 3 year guys, they'll still be getting mandated requirement programming regarding CPA, financial literacy, domestic violence, sexual assault training, and so there's typically within the pros, they have to get those mandated coursework programs done by the end of camp. Whereas in college, it's really up to head coach, and it's really up to whether or not they see value in this. And so that's one of the areas that I hope to improve on, and just getting a little bit more of a solid progression, so we actually have guys getting 4 or 5 years, or 3, 4, 5 years with development before they even enter into the NFL, so they're a little bit more ahead of the game, and not right out the gates, rookie season, having a major contract signed, as well as now we're trying to teach them how to hire a CPA, that should already be done ahead of time. And so I still have guys here that that don't bank. They don't have a checking account. They don't have a savings account. That is not okay for me.
Yeah.
And so those types of topics I will cover, and make sure that before they even leave KU or any program I'm with, they're set to at least be financially set and understand the basics to go on and be successful. But then I also within the other piece of the NFL is that there's requirements for making sure that they do community service, that there's aspects of if there's any protocols or any rule changes, we are updated with that. And so there's just a little bit of a difference within programming at the NFL, whereas the college level, you can take those same topics, but then you can also expand to professional development, making sure that they know what professional dress means, what is casual versus interview, pinpoint what is mandated for them to go into an interview process and be successful in that. And so I think within program wise, they somewhat overlap. But just with the NFL, it's a little bit more structured in the sense of what is expected.
Absolutely. It's interesting you bring up the banking, because I remember my first time in Houston, players like, Coach, we're like, Coach, where's my scholarship check? It was like, I should have went in your bank. And I'm like, well, my dad told me that he used to get a check. Yeah, your dad played in 1981. Like, they're not handing out checks. Like, they're not going to give you a scholarship check to walk around. First of all, your check's higher than his, and they're not going to let you walk around with that. So I totally understand that when you say that. This is a question. The only reason I ask this on this podcast is people ask me this all the time, and I try and tell them that you never know. So I just want you to also support that. What does your everyday look like?
I know. I saw that question and I was like, that is such a standard question. And it really, there is no like everyday structure. Everything looks the same. It really doesn't. I mean, despite having structured X's and O's and player meetings and team tech and lifting. Yeah, those are structured. So we are a morning team. Typically we get everything done by 8:30. And guys are completely out of the building by noon. And so the rest of their afternoon is completely dedicated to being being a student, going to tutoring, going to class, and studying. So we've taken that approach that by noon we don't really even have anyone in the building
Right.
unless they just come back for extra work. And so my day can vary. This morning I get a call, before even 6 a.m. With a player that's sick. So I feel like I'm that mom with like mom / coach, because at any point, I could get a call and I'm in mom mode or big sister mode. And I'm taking care of a crisis. And then other days are a little bit slower. I'm around whenever the players are in the building. And so if I'm, in conditioning, or if I'm in team tech, I'm there with the guys. And then I just make sure that, even if I'm not in the building, I'm still on call. So it's not, this is definitely not a 9 to 5 job. You are on call at any moment of the day.
Absolutely. I like to educate those because, like, as you know, your messages are probably flooded in LinkedIn with students and people from other professions. Like, oh, I want to do player development. I'm like, it does look nice, but there's a lot of time and other things that we can't specifically talk about on this podcast that happen.
Correct. And that's where the education, I think this is a great space for those who see this and say, this is exactly what I want. And I always tell young people, like, from the outside, it may look great. You know what I mean? But once you get into the building and you're maybe it's not what you thought it was. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like,
still
finding out,
but
still love it. But but like I tell people, there's still value in knowing what you don't want. Maybe you don't want to spend 24/7 on call. Like at any point that may not work for you long term. It may work for you, for a couple of years, and then you start wanting to think about having a family or a different lifestyle, and it just doesn't work. And so I never say that that there's anything wrong with trying something and seeing that it doesn't fit, but I also just say be open to opportunities and learn, even though it may not be a job title that you think you would like or think you would want.
Right. Awesome. So you talk about learn, you just talked about that and gave some great knowledge there. What's the biggest thing you learned in this role?
Be flexible. I mean, there's going to be time. This is the first time I've worked with this head coach, with this staff. And so just like any job, you got to learn their environment. You got to learn what they're trying to bring to the table and their culture, on what they're trying to build in the locker room. And so I just got here in February. So it's been a little more than 4 months for me to get in the groove and work with these guys during the off season. But I think, be open, knowing that, and I always tell players this, I don't have a job without you. So like, if there is anything that I'm doing and an athlete walks into the door, everything drops, everything is done, because that is why I have a job. And so I say, make sure you are focused on your current roster, on those players, because that's really what you're there for. Everything else can somewhat take a back seat if there's a player in your office and they're needing something. And I think that again speaks volumes to them when they know that you're dropping everything for them because they're the priority. And that's really what we're there for.
Yeah. So question I like to ask is, what does support look like for you in the role? I mean, you've had experience doing it by yourself. I'm pretty sure there's a little more support there at Kansas, but what does support look like for you?
Head coach. That is like, head coach is the starting point. That person sets the tone on whether or not they're even going to push for me to even get in front of the team. And luckily, and I say when KU reached out to me about this opportunity, I like to say we were doing an interview for each other, because it may have not been the right fit for what I was looking for to take on. So understand where you're at in your career, what you're looking for, and then understand, at the end of the day, you're not always like whatever I put in front of a GM or a head coach, I may not get green lighted every single time. And that's, at the end of the day, they have final say, and you have to be okay with that, and know where to push and what what issues you are going to fight for. But understanding that when you go into this space, this is really about how much this head coach or GM or organization values this position. And for me, I'm working with a head coach who's never had this role, who's never had a me. And so also I'm not only educating student athletes and players about different topics and what I'm trying to get them to learn to be a professional, but I'm also teaching and trying to educate the head coach on where I fit into this puzzle that he's trying to build here. And so little by little, that is helping him seeing that behavioral changes are occurring with our players and maturity is happening. And that's where, again, then you as a professional, when you do have something that you want to present to the head coach or GM, they're more open because they do see you bringing value to the table.
Awesome. You already gave some advice to those looking into the role. Is there anything you want to add before we move to the next question? Because you already gave some gems a little earlier, but is there anything you would like to add to it?
Yeah, I mean, I would always say, don't be afraid to fail. That was one thing that I wish I had learned earlier on in my coaching career is take the risk. I was a big risk taker. I'm from California, but I had no issues moving across the country if there was opportunities that I could learn and grow. And so, and did I, do everything correctly throughout my coaching career and learning? No, I made mistakes and had to learn the hard way. Just because I never had a female. I've never worked with a female. I had mentors or a boss. So for me, it was a different element when I got into strength and conditioning, 10, 12 years ago. But I encourage young people to not see failure as anything wrong. That's important. We need that to continue on growing.
Absolutely. What's the best advice What's the best advice you've been given in your life?
Oh my goodness. There's been so many. I mean, I feel like at some point I'll write a book and help, like give, 10, 20 pieces of advice. But I would say, again, making sure that you're networking and keeping contacts with people. That's it. Really, at the end of the day, I say education is important. It is very much important. But at the end of the day, people are not hiring you on where you went to school. They're hiring you because, one, they have a connection with you. They know you. They know of you. They've been referred by someone that they trust. So it really is making sure that you're building your rapport in this industry and making sure that you're staying, you're doing your research just as much as they would be doing their research on you. Know what type of coaches, what philosophy you align with. I think that's very important. And I know when you're young and you're just trying to get into the door, we're going to have to take opportunities, just to start building a resume. But at some point, start thinking about alignment with the people, the village, so to speak, that you surround yourself with, because that, at the end of the day, is going to be more important than the logo, the conference, the organization. It really does not matter. At the end of the day, it really matters who you're working with and whether or not you align with the vision.
Gotcha. What's a practical nugget you have in this space? You know, like for me, I always use this, and I've said this before. It's like my first year, I wish I would have just scanned everything because it's cyclical. You do the calendar, you just write, what did we do wrong? What could we have gotten better? So, what's your practical nugget?
I would say if you're going into a new situation, don't feel like you're just going to come in and change everything.
Hmm.
There's going to be, there's going to be certain things, and to your point, I think that's valuable to scan. You have to, if you're coming into a new locker room, a new team, and I did this as a strength coach. I wouldn't just come in and be like, okay, scratch everything that
Yeah.
you have learned, scratch everything because it's all wrong, because it may not be all wrong. You know
Right.
what I mean? I think you got to take the time. And that's why I say, I've been here 4 months, but I'm still scanning. I'm
Right.
still understanding the elements of that locker room and what really is going to be the low hanging fruit to really adjust and try to handle first off. And, with this team was emotionally a little bit immature.
Hmm.
Um, and so I had to put in elements of a lot more workshops within accountability and
Right.
making sure that when I say be a pro, they understand what that even means.
Right.
And so making sure that my clarity, my terminology is understood by them. So so we're all on the same page and there's no disconnect when I say something that they don't know what that means. So I would just say take the time to learn your environment before you start suggesting things that you want to implement or tweak.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love that. I learned that there. So last question. You take care of so many people, and I know my experience in the role. You don't only take care of players, you take care of coaches and other people. How do you take care of yourself?
Currently, I'm in need of that right now. It's I that part is hard, Ed. I will tell you, and this. I move a lot of people in this industry. We move constantly, and
Yeah.
trying to keep a therapist on hand is hard because now you're dealing with different states. You're
Yeah.
you're you're
Oh, yeah.
going all over the place. So I've struggled with that. I haven't had my regular therapy sessions that I typically my mindfulness therapy sessions that I typically had taken on, a lot more couple years ago. But within that, now I'm kind of just in the maintenance phase. I make sure that I'm utilizing my mindfulness tools, my app.
Mhm.
I make sure that I get in my workouts. Like I am dedicated to setting a time that's for me. Like you have to at some point say, I can't fit, from 1 to 2. This is my time. I need to get my mind back, or refill your tank. And so you gotta just make it a priority.
Mhm.
You have to set the tone, and when other people are like, no, I need this, no, I need this, you have to communicate. Just like I tell my players, you got to communicate with me. I'm not a mind reader on what's going on with you.
Right.
I have to communicate with them and say, hey, give me 60 minutes, give me 45 minutes, give me 30 minutes. Let me just get something in. And then right after that,
Right.
we'll get that phone number, we'll get whatever taken care of. But you just really have to set the tone and make sure that that you have your tool bag just as much as you're preaching to the players to have their tool bag.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for being on here. Oh, we got rapid fire questions. You didn't know about these. All right.
Ah,
So I asked some
no.
quick rapid fire questions. What are you reading right now?
Right now, I just got done with taking a course. I'm doing my second master's,
Nice.
and so
Yeah.
another. If I'm into school, I am not reading anything other
I
than
get
just
it.
work and freaking
I get it. Not mad at
get
you.
getting it in. So I will tell you the book that I was reading right before summer term started was is Habits.
Nice.
And that's have you read that book?
You said Atomic Habits?
No, Habits.
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Great book. It's just the breaking down the elements of how we can like behaviorally change. How can we
Nice.
behaviorally change our habits? into whatever, we're trying to improve upon. So I was reading that until, my athlete sexual health and wellness course took place. And so now I'm in that, focusing on that.
Gotcha. What's a daily discipline you're working on?
Patience, not my strong suit. That's really, that is, I am a type A personality.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I've had to, so I'm still having to work on is, my standards have been, I say, pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to have really high standards just to get into this space.
Right.
And even, have any opportunities to work in football. So I have to say that I've had to adjust and sort of refocus on how I don't set my standards lower, but are able to work with other people that may not have the same standards or the same values as I have. So
Right.
that's taking some time for me to work through and adjust. Is just continually understand that hopefully people are doing the best that they can. That's what I'm reminding myself of, and that we're not always going to, work the same way, that I'm going to have to adjust somewhat of my expectations for some, which is good, which is necessary when you're dealing with as many people as we deal with in this space. So that's what I'm working on, still working on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know you've been in Lawrence for 4 months. You get $25 for lunch. Where are you going?
Ooh, Thai place. That's where I'm going. Thai place. I am big on Thai food. Yeah.
Nice.
Did you go there when?
I don't know if it was there when I was there, because I love Thai food. I used to go to the I can't think of it. It's the place on I don't even want to say it because I'm gonna miss it, but it's a place on Mass I used to always go to, but it wasn't Thai place.
So that is definitely my go-to for if I'm dealing with dinner. If I'm dealing with breakfast or anything, Milton's has been my spot, and that's like, where that's like right off Mass, and so that's my breakfast spot with a bloody at times.
Yes. All right, what about 125 for dinner?
Ooh, let me think. I do love the fish place that's on Mass Street. You know
I know what you're talking about.
You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes.
I love that place. I do like 23rd Street, but I also Eddie V's.
Eddie V is good, yeah.
I mean, I know that's now technically I know Eddie V's is not in Lawrence, so I am kind of venturing
Kansas City.
out
That's fine.
Into Kansas City. But if I have to stay in Lawrence, that fish place on Mass Street is great. But I'm pescatarian, so I don't eat meat. I don't eat red meat or pork. So of course I got to go with fish.
Nice. My favorite restaurant in Lawrence is Merchants. That is.
Oh, that place.
That's
very good. Okay. That place. Goodness. I may have to change my answer, because now you threw that one is solid.
That was my spot. Like if I had NFL scouts, they're like, let's go out to lunch, or anybody wanted to go, I'm like, hey, we're going to Merchants. We're going now,
Was Gold Standard Barbecue there when you were there?
I don't think so.
Okay. Because that's a former KU. I think it was track and field, and he opened up the barbecue place called Gold Medal Barbecue, and that's near Mouse Street too, which is pretty good. I'm not big on barbecue a whole lot, but if people are, it's pretty good.
Gotcha. If you could join a band or music group, past or present, who would it be?
That one's hard. I would have to say, I think I'm gonna have to go with Prince.
Nice. Prince in the Revolution, huh?
I think I'm going to have to go with Purple. I mean, I can go Purple. The moves, the vibe. I mean, I think I got to go with him.
Nice, nice. You can't wear too much purple in Lawrence, though. You know that. No,
I can't. But if I'm with
you
him,
can. Yeah,
I
Prince
can.
is. Yeah,
I
Prince
think I
is.
think I think I can pull it off if I'm with
Absolutely,
him, you know.
absolutely. If you could co-star in a movie, who would it be with action and comedy?
Action and comedy. I
Mm-hmm.
love these rapid questions,
It's
Ed.
just yeah,
There's
just
like
read. I just kind of
so random. Um, okay, so comedy, I would. Ooh, this one's hard. Um, man. Okay, well, action. I'm going Denzel.
yeah, he is like that's
Like
yeah,
I like you can't go wrong. I
can't go
feel like
wrong.
I'm right there winning an Academy Award if I'm
I
in
was just
that.
about to say acting career is going there. Yeah,
I'm already at the top
right.
if I'm with him. So him, action, comedy. I do, you know, this is like corny. I love Vince Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
He has like that corny, you know, like I don't know, funniness to him. Kevin Hart at times, but at times I can get a little bit over him. So I may
Yes,
have to slap him if I'm like, you
right.
know, like
Which is
not trying
happening
to
a
be
lot. That's happened in a lot of his movies.
correct. And I'm not trying to be Will Smith here.
Right.
But you know,
Yeah.
but that I think I would have to like go with one of that. Who would you pick if it was comedy? I'm
Ooh,
trying to think
nobody's ever asked me. I go Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence.
now. Okay, you pick a classic that you can't go wrong.
Yeah,
That I feel if you pick classics, you can't go wrong.
that's
I feel
true.
like Kevin Hart, I don't is not in that realm yet.
Somebody who's not an actor who I feel like if we did comedy would be incredible is Spice Adams. Yeah.
Ooh, you think?
Yes, I think so.
I know. I watch him on his Instagram. I do watch him, and he's got his moves
He
with
does.
some short shorts sometimes, you
Correct.
know,
That's a
and the
big man doing the splits right there. Yeah, that's I can't do it.
and him with the socks and sandals. It gets me
Yes.
every single
Yes.
time. But you know, he's pulling it off. He's
Yes.
pulling it off.
Awesome. All right, last one here. What sport do you wish you played when you were younger?
Football.
Nice.
Well,
Nice. Which position?
guess what? Okay, I was just gonna say, guess what position I would be.
Who type A? So I want to say quarterback. For some reason, I want to say like a safety, like just back there and just
Ding,
smoking
ding,
people.
ding.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew
That's it. My mentality, all hit. Let me
Yes.
just hit.
Just
Let me
coming
just
downhill, smoking people. Yeah.
smoking. Just you
Yeah.
watch out. I'm gonna
Yes.
knock you out.
Yes. See,
Like
I knew I should win my first gumption. Um, yeah.
then you Ed, you know me very well then.
Yes. See,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being on here. How can our followers, how can they follow you and support you?
So Instagram,
Mhm.
Ash Goodman, just how it sounds, 23. And then you can go on Facebook. You can go. I'm not big on Twitter. I try to limit my time with the social media because you know that can take
Yeah, it
over
can be
someone's
consuming. Oh yeah.
that can take over a lot of time. And so I try to limit on what I do. Don't do Snap. I feel like too old for
Yeah,
it. So that those are the two platforms that you can reach me, or you can, you know, always find me, hit me up on my email, you know, Ashley Goodman at ku.edu.
awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for taking time with us. And if I'm in Lawrence, in Kansas City area, we're going to Merchants. Thank you
We
so
are
much.
definitely, I'm glad that you reminded me about that.